Let's go ahead and bring in Steiner Sports CEO, Brandon Steiner.
One of the country's top memorabilia moguls.
I have an unbelievable guest, Brandon Steiner.
Brandon's second to none.
Good morning. I told you it was going to be an exciting week. Radius AI. I'm with Jeff Cox and Susan Sly to talk to you about Radius AI. If you want to take a look into the future, or if you want to understand how the future is going to be taking a look into you, well, you're in the right place. This is outrageous. And I know I teased the fact that Susan was going to come on, who's like my health guru. I mean, she is probably one of the main reasons I was able to get healthy. So many tips and insights, and her story is amazing too. So if you're somebody that's thinking about getting healthy, well, stop thinking about it and get ready to start doing something about it, which hopefully from this conversation you'll be thinking about the future and also be thinking about your future.
Exactly.
Right? Which is what it's all about. Well, first of all, welcome. So great to have you guys here. Thank you. And we'll do some questions if you have some questions. I got to just start off, Susan, just because I've been teasing you all week. Health. Give me a little bit about your story, because you were not in the best of shape for a while ago. How'd you pull that together? And what's your message to people out there that may be thinking their health is failing and that may be giving up on themselves?
That's a great question, and thanks, Brandon, for having us. It's interesting, and I want to bring in some health trends and predictions I have for 2019 as well. My story really goes back to a stressful event and how I literally gave myself multiple sclerosis. And at the time, I was teaching nutrition at the college level. I owned a health club. I was training celebrities. I was training athletes like Kirk Muller, who had won the Stanley Cup and released from the Florida Panthers, came to me and said, "Can you get me more playing time in the NHL?" And hey, Kirk, if you're watching, he and I were just texting the other day. And I was known as this person who could put people back together if you were a celebrity or an athlete or a physician. And I had my techniques that I used, which was a lot of whole food eating, supplementing with some really high quality vitamins, some protein shakes, and rest and meditation and yoga. And that was back in the early 90s.
Eating.
I know, shocking, isn't it?
What does that mean, though? Because we're not that
real food.
Like, for example, give me a couple examples. So, some of us are not that.
Yeah. So.
What does that mean? Whole food eating? Does that mean eating like a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit?
A lot of vegetables, a lot of at least in your day. Now, we don't want to talk about romaine lettuce and E. coli, but at least in your day, about 30 to 40% of what you're eating, having it be like raw and fresh. And basically, if you know what it is, then it's good to eat. But if you don't know what it is, it's not good to eat. And that's.
You think that a lot of people eat stuff that they don't know what it is?
100% of the time.
A hamburger sounds simple.
Don't even.
But we don't know what a hamburger is.
Why is it called a hamburger?
Why?
Right.
But we don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you own a hamburger joint, I grew up in a restaurant. Shouts out to you. It's a lot of work, so no offense, please.
I got you. But Whole Foods, knowing what you eat, meaning you may think you know what you eat, even if you're having a muffin, you don't really know what's in that muffin.
No, exactly.
You don't know what's in half the stuff that we're eating.
Yeah, and I need to talk about stress because I want to tie in the stress story. So. I literally gave myself multiple sclerosis because I was under so much stress, running a business, little girl, working 3 jobs. I was a pro athlete, and our bodies.
So you didn't get multiple sclerosis, you ordered it.
I did. I ordered it like someone orders a hamburger. Because,
so do you believe that most diseases that people order, as opposed to they think they just get it because it's hereditary or because bad luck? Is it something you order in and it gets delivered right to your door kind of thing?
I think our bodies have certain capacities, and when we're under stress, that capacity is lowered. And stress affects us. Tremendously. It lowers our immune system. It can cause us to be depressed. We're not sleeping. And once you start that cycle, your body, some people gain weight under stress. They secrete a hormone called cortisol. The cortisol begins to go up between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. You start craving muffins and coffee and chocolate and everything else. And then usually if someone's cortisol is high, they're going to wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning. They're going to have to go pee. I know we're on Brandon's show, I can say pee. And that their adrenals, which sit on the kidneys, are giving this shot of adrenaline. It wakes people up. And that is usually, when I had my practice for 15 years, years, that was one of the first things I'd ask. Do you wake up in the night? If so, what time? And so back in 1999, I was waking up in the night. I was burning the candle at both ends. I think I can say that now as long as it doesn't involve animals, because PETA just came out and said we can't flog a dead horse. That was one thing. I just said something politically incorrect. I apologize. I love you, PETA. But I was burning the candles are hopefully not offensive right now. As I get closer to 50, I just kind of say what I want. So anyway, hopefully no one's offended.
First of all, there's no age discrimination. Say whatever the hell you want for the next 30 minutes because they're counting on it, and I'm counting on it. That's the only way we're going to learn.
Yeah.
So don't even worry about picking your words. It's the meaning of what you're saying is important to us.
Well, and
stress.
And so I literally, my body got to the point where it couldn't handle the training and running a business with 54 staff, and you know what that's like, and a family and everything else. And eventually I did give myself MS, adrenal fatigue, hypothyroidism, borderline
diabetes. Were you a lot
diabetes.
heavier than you are now?
No.
About the same?
Yeah, and some days I was racing Ironman Triathlon. Some days I was training 8 hours a day. And I was exhausted.
But where does all that come from? That inspiration, that energy? Is it just where's all that coming from? Or you weren't able to channel it?
I used to be a prover, like
an achiever.
And like you, we were on when I was living with my mom as a kid. We were on food stamps, and it was very common for the church to show up with a bunch of food. I remember going to the grocery store. I think I said this last time I was here when I was a little kid with Monopoly money because we had no food, and the cashier laughed at me.
It's humiliating.
Mm-hmm,
right?
It is.
Yeah.
And so for a long time,
doesn't ever leave you.
No.
Right. Even still to this day, you go look in that refrigerator, the cupboard. You're like, wow, I can't believe how much food I have.
Yeah.
That's just such a blessing. I mean, because you know what it's like not to have any of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy.
And so I do want to say to everyone, stress. The Fed is going to announce tomorrow, are they hiking rates? A lot of people are panic selling in the markets. My message to my fans and my readers and my followers, and I do a Monday show, Bulletproof Monday, is now is the time to hustle. But let's talk about smart
Bulletproof
hustling.
Monday. Every Monday, you're on SusanSly.com or
on my Facebook business page, Susan Sly Live.
Wow.
Every Monday
Bulletproof
at 5.
Monday. How'd you come up with that name?
I used to be a men's maximum security prison guard.
No.
Which is true.
You worked in a prison?
Men's max.
That's insane.
Men's
Those guys had to be
maximum.
killing you in there.
Oh.
Or trying to. Or do whatever they can to you.
I used to spit, shine my boots, and walk with authority. And as I was really thinking about this time we're living in, and you've got to have a thick skin. Social media. I'm going to be speaking at one of the biggest trafficking conversion conferences for social media marketers in February, as we're thinking about the future and technology. And people are stressed out to the max. They roll out of bed, they wake up, they're like on they're on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. It's not freaking healthy, and it's the last thing they do at night. And then they're waking up in the middle of the night, they can't sleep, they're having nightmares, and then if you're in Gen Z, you're playing Fortnite until 5 a.m. Your body can't handle it. It just can't.
What do you do? Let's say I'm there. Let's say I'm 3/4 of where you just talked about, and I'm in that zone. And then how do you break it? How do you break out of it?
Well, firstly, like anything, and you write about this, it starts with desire, and then you got to be disciplined. Like desire, discipline, drive, and you've got to be committed enough to make the changes. I mean, you lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
That
I gained a lot of health.
Mm-hmm.
Before I lost the weight, I gained a lot of health, and another thing I'm a big fan of is you got to focus on what you're eating, but you got to focus on what's eating you.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. Like you gotta realize you gotta go put out some of those old fires that have been hanging around since God knows when. Mm-hmm. And you're in all these little battles with all these different people that I don't know who you think you were battling with, but other than yourself.
Yeah.
And the Ken Blanchard line is like life's an inside job.
Yeah.
Like you got to get inside and really sort all that before you start getting on a treadmill and working out, because you'll just hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can't outwork bad nutrition. So right away, whatever you think you're doing working out in the morning, between stress, which is fattening, which you just mentioned, and then bad eating, you end up sometimes gaining weight.
Yeah, and it's like, even last night we had a business meeting. I was in bed at midnight, but I was up at 5:30 and I went to the gym. And it isn't easy. Success is not convenient. And as the markets go down, one of the things I'm known for is just being direct. What are the trends? As the markets are going down, as the social media spectrum is a red ocean, as technology is advancing so fast, people are under a lot of stress.
What's your optimal amount of sleep? Like, what's the right amount of sleep for Susan Sly to feel great?
I sleep actually 7.5, 8.
And we're not waking up, or
No.
straight up?
All night long, baby.
So you go to sleep at 11, wake up at like 7, or wake
No,
up at 6?
I have 5 kids, so I go to sleep at 9:30, and that's
5
why I
kids.
love living on the
You're
West
busy
Coast.
morning to night.
Yeah.
There's no break in your game.
I go to sleep, and I run 3 companies, but I go to sleep at 9:30, and I'm up at between 5 and 5:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you need the 7.5.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the one of the tips I want to give everyone as they're coming to the end of this year and figuring out what you want next year. There was a study done by Go Banking, and they surveyed 5,000 people on New Year's resolutions and found only 8% of people stick with them. Here's my message to you.
Sounds like our New York Knicks on the winning percentage. Jeez, we could do better than that. For God's sakes.
I have
Oh
no
my
comment.
God.
No
All
comment.
right,
Yeah.
Gotta make the sports analogies. I have a lot of sports fans, so I'm trying to put things in perspective. Like, do you want to run your life like the Knicks have been winning the last couple of years, or like the Mets have been winning the last couple of years, which is a very small percentage? No.
Yeah.
But the Knicks,
like the
but the Knicks do
Patriots
have a
are-
great plan, though.
The
They have a good
Patriots
plan.
are not winning that much right now either.
Yeah, don't jump on that bandwagon. I mean, geez, everybody's in a panic. Even the Knicks, like, they're looking on the upside now, and they have a plan.
Yeah.
And they have a plan for next year, and that's where you were going with that comment. Is 8% of people that set goals for next year and their resolutions. It's such a small percentage. Why?
Yeah. Going back to discipline, changing your habits. Here's the thing I want to say to everyone. If you take nothing away, and please write into Brandon, let me know how you're doing with this. Change your sleep, change your life. When you're not sleeping enough, when it's less than 6 hours, I don't care who you are, Mr. President, to you, your hormones get out of whack, your sex drive goes down, you gain that belly fat, men and women, you can't gain muscle, your leptin levels, leptin controls how hungry you are. Those, your leptin isn't functioning, you're hungrier than you actually are, you're depressed, you're moody, your skin looks like garbage. Change your sleep, change your life, and don't write a million goals for next year. Start with the sleep. Get the sleep under control. And people say, but I'm having trouble sleeping. Well, here's the thing. Get your phone out of your freaking bedroom. You will not sleep with your phone beside your head. And people say, well, I need it for an alarm. Go to Walmart and buy a Timex watch with an alarm clock on it and use that. And I know it's tough love, but I don't care. I didn't come here to sugarcoat it. The way I began to change my health, I wasn't sleeping. It was 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night. My secret weapon is sleep. And I was reading an interview with Jennifer Lopez, who's now worth reportedly like $500 million. And that woman's hustling. She's a mom. She's getting 7 to 8.5 hours of sleep every single night. Change your sleep, change your life.
People always ask me, do you ever sleep? And it's embarrassing because for so many years, if you know me out there, I was emailing you at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning,
Yeah.
2 in the morning. Sleep was like the last resort. And I always thought sleep was for losers. Like, I'll sleep when I die.
Yeah, I
but
used
the
to say
last
that.
4 or 5 years, I sleep great. I not only do I sleep great, which one thing you didn't, I agree with you 100,000,000%, except one thing. You have to prepare to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I used to work, and then 2 minutes before I went to sleep, I was on. Now, for 2-3 hours before I go to sleep, I'm really dumbing myself down. Maybe I'm reading a little bit, watching some stupid program, just hanging out.
There's a number.
And that's
you're
helped
so
me.
right. Preparing to sleep. So there is a number. It's an hour. So you should be off screens an hour before you want to begin to go to sleep. So your brain, our human brains have not caught up with screens yet, and so it's an hour. No TV, no phone. Like, I love books. Like a good fiction book, something. But yeah, you take the screens out of your bedroom, it'll change your sex life. I promise you that. You take all the screens out of the bedroom, you're going to start to sleep better.
Because we see all these movies and and all these shows where people are about to have sex and whatever, and their phone rings. I mean, so you kind of see that, and you're like, think, well, of course I could take my phone in the bedroom. Of course I have that. I mean, look at that cop show. He gets a call right in the middle of Right? You see,
Yeah.
how many movies do you see where the phone's right there and you get a call? Oh, I'm sorry, we can't have sex right now. I've got to get this call. Like, who does this? But people do it, and that's not a good. Do not do what you see there.
There's a
That's
trend
stupid.
actually with millennials starting to give up their phones. So it was 4% of millennials, I think it was 2 years ago, were kind of starting to take more time away from their phones. Now that number's up to 11%. So we are
Really?
seeing that trending. Yeah.
You saw that contest that they did where give somebody $100,000 that they give up their phone for a year. Mm-hmm. I'm like, boy, I couldn't do it. There's no way I would apply for that contest.
You're the guy who beat Jordan. I think you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, I could. What I think is I have learned is I do not take my phone on date nights. When I go out with my wife, and by the way, just as an FYI, my wife sets up most of the date nights. Because if you read my book, my wife's like, you kind of taking credit for the date nights. I'm like, no, you're right. I just said when I'm on date nights, I leave the phone home so I can pay attention to you. I pay attention. And when I'm with my kids now, I leave the phone home. Because you're underneath the table in the bathroom. So when I'm with people that are important, I really try to leave the phone home so it doesn't become an issue. So I was at a meeting the other day, and the guy says, well, when I go out with my family, we put the phone in the middle of the table. I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm like, leave the phone home and send the message that they're complete focus. Because at some point, right before you sit down or if the kids go to the bathroom, just leave the thing home. Send the message. Let it be clear.
I do sold out Sundays. So I like Saturday afternoon to Monday morning, I do not turn on my phone. And even and people say to me all the time, oh, Susan, okay, you're running this company, you're running that company, you're speaking here, you're speaking there, and now coming in, working with Jeff with Radius, and how do you do it? Well, your phone needs to recharge, you need to recharge. So I turn it off, and if the kids are looking for us, they text their dad, and they'll say, hey, can you tell mom this? But I turn my phone off, and anyone who's in my inner circle, anyone I work with, even my staff, they know, Susan's not going to answer on Sunday.
That.
Sold out Sunday. That's my other tip. But if you can't be disciplined enough for sleep, you might not be ready. That's hardcore. That's major leagues, boys and girls.
I think a big part of it is you have to be able to look in the mirror and say to yourself, there's no way I'm tolerating this behavior. Self-analysis. You can go to all the therapists, all the help, but self-analysis has to be like, you just ain't that good. What you're doing isn't right. And you deserve better. You got to be able to do that. And it's hard. It's hard to really see yourself who you are. We don't get our goals.
We get our standards. I've been saying that for years.
Say that again.
We don't get our goals. We get our standards. And if your life is crappy right now and your health is crappy and you're overweight and things don't feel good, you've lowered your standards.
Wow. That's strong.
Maybe that's my next book title.
I'm not a big goal. I'm obviously I just wrote a book, Living on Purpose. I'm more about purpose, dreams, and about really seeing yourself for who you really are versus what other people keep telling you are, or something that maybe happened 10 years ago and you still think exists.
Yeah.
Like Brandon, you don't have that long blonde hair. You don't have that 8-pack anymore. That's not you anymore. That hasn't happened for a while. Like, stop thinking that you're that person and start putting the work in like you did when you were 18.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no age restrictions to being the best you could be and dreaming.
No.
We got to bring Jeff into it because I think there's we need 5 hours for this conversation because I was going to get into the whole health thing because you're, to me, a genius when it comes to this stuff.
You.
And then now you hit me with this Radius and I'm like, wow, I never even heard of this. So let's take a step back for a minute. Jeff Cox, explain to me this new company and this new development you have.
Great. Well, I'm going to do a transition from health to artificial intelligence. So,
oh boy.
How did I meet Susan, first of all? So, one thing, I was one of those kids, I loved playing basketball, baseball, football, but I had asthma. So I would do halftime. There were many times basketball games I'd be the leading scorer still, but I'd be taken out of the game because I'd have to stop.
Right.
I'd have to take my asthma inhaler and sit out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in my 30s, I started to, how can I get I was still on my asthma meds. It was tough for me. And then basically, I started to change my diet. I found out eliminating wheat for the most part and dairy, but then adding lots of leafy greens. And basically doing this, my belly went away, my whole life, my health improved. I felt like I found the fountain of youth. So then I'm in my mid-40s, have abs. I was commuting 75% up to Silicon Valley, San Francisco. I have 2 daughters, taking care of that. So how do you have time for this? Well, there's a pretty simple way to eat. And so when I met Susan, my VP of sales for my artificial intelligence company, that's Susan Sly. I'm like, oh, I know that name. She's like, she put together $1.5 billion in sales for a health company.
Oh, she's unbelievable. And that was just on a part-time on the side.
And so he went up to her and said, hey, I'm a big fan of yours. I said, I know what you do. And then said, well, who's this? Jeff Cox. He's a co-founder of Radius AI. And I'm like, Susan, I said, you're into health. I'm like, I found a way for men to actually get abs in their 40s and improve their life. And this was the thing. I started posting this on my Facebook, had a bunch of friends, and I said, you can decrease your cancer rates, heart disease, diabetes, and they're like, that didn't really do it. But since you guys already brought up sex into this, I said, and then you might not need little blue pills to help you out. What do I have to do? I'll do this. It didn't matter about the health, but if that could improve their life.
She completely transform your life. What was the key part of that, all that? Was just the eating? Was it the supplements?
The key part was eliminating the junk, eliminating the crap. So I was looking for my cure for asthma, but it helped everything for me in my life. And so that was it. And then so Susan and I started comparing notes. We were doing a lot of the same things. I was doing a lot of the same supplements, eating lots of leafy greens, doing lots of vegetables and no soda, and it just improved my life in many ways, but then being able to help other people. So that's talking to Susan, then she's like, I want to know about AI. I have all these ideas, and we just decided it made sense for her to join the company.
How does that work? Explain to me how AI works, because.
Well, and I'll throw in, I was doing facial recognition coding in 1991. So people would be like, how do you go from speaker, author, professional salesperson, digital marketer to working with AI? So it's like everything comes back full circle. We were just having this, if you haven't been to Steiner Sports, we got to tour the warehouse, and it was like, oh my gosh,
amazing.
The best thing ever. And we were talking about how things do come full circle. So any of the viewers who are like, how does she end up there? It's kind of like stuff I was doing 30 years ago, but way more advanced now. So
I just have to jump in. Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Do you believe in divine intervention? And do you believe there's a plan for all of us, or do you believe that God intervenes only when convenient?
I believe there's a plan for all of us.
So is everything that's happening under our control or not?
I think that certain things are under our control, and that's why we're given that gift of choosing. So you can choose to go to bed tonight at 10 o'clock, my friends, or you can choose to stay up and binge watch Netflix. It's your choice. That's not about God.
Okay, God's only brought in for the important stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure this out, and I'm cool with God. Like I do believe there's a higher power, but I'm upset with God because some things have gotten a little out of control and out of hand, and I'm wondering, is it that he relied on all of us to come together to figure this stuff out? He's not going to give us that answer, or she's not going to give us that answer, or is it a time when maybe God does need to intervene a little bit?
Can I give you an answer of 5-year-old wisdom? So I was in Toronto, 2001, and I was frustrated. I was on a sales call, and I threw my phone, and it smashed. And my little girl at the time, who's now 21 and wants Roger Goodell, she wants your job. She's going to be the first female commissioner of the NFL. So anyway,
I like that dreaming. I like it.
She said, Mommy, what's wrong? And I said, oh, this person. And she looked me in the eyes, and she said, Mommy, here's the thing. You know what God does when you complain? I said, what, Avery? She said, he makes you go back and learn the lesson all over again. So I'd like to propose that what if some of the things that keep going around in our lives are maybe because we're complaining? And I love this quote I read in the Globe and Mail in Canada back in 1995. It says, you become successful when the things you now complain about are the things you used to dream about. So one of my big things every day is, no matter what's going on, there's no complaints. I mean, when you've held kids who've been sold in the virgin auctions in Cambodia and rescued, and they're telling you their stories, or you're in Africa where $5 can save a kid from malaria, we have nothing to complain about, and our how we live, Jeff, leaning out, getting healthy, starting a company, how we live is really on purpose and our choice.
Love that. That's good stuff. Love that. Love that. You love that? I love that. That's unbelievable. I knew I was going to get nothing less than, I want to start taking notes myself, which I love, which is what it's about. Just keep learning, just keep, resetting, and then perspective. Because we always need that. And that's where I think faith and even religion does come in, just to kind of alter the perspective and support the perspective so the right things happen on purpose.
At that point, I want to add another aspect of the story. I want you to tell it how we met. So I was thinking of designing some custom tech. And so Jeff said, before you do your startup, I just want to give you some pro bono wisdom. Will you tell the George Lucas story? Because I think this it's beautiful with regard to what Brandon said.
Yes, so she wants to give her idea to me and one other of her good technical friends. And I said, this is great that you're doing this, mainly because you want to get some people that will tell you this is a good idea or not a good idea, especially at the start, before you invest too much time, too much money in this. And so I said, the reason is, I'm a big Star Wars fan. One of the things that I'm the actual height of the original Darth Vader, David Prowse, and I volunteer my time. I have a Hollywood Darth Vader costume or outfit, whatever you want to call it, and I'll go to hospitals, schools, help raise money. I've done Special Olympics, all volunteer. We can't accept any money. And so I love Star Wars. When I got asked to do this, I said, yes, I'll do this. And so the quote I gave is, I loved all the Star Wars movies, the first three, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then I was so excited for The Phantom Menace. And Phantom Menace started out great. I'm like, this is, so it's worth all these years. And then all of a sudden, Jar Jar pops out. And he's a character on there that has this really annoying voice, and what just happened to this movie? I could not believe it. And then what I read years later is that, and I love George Lucas, he's amazing. He wanted to put something in there for kids, which I get, it helps. And there were too many yes men around him that, great idea. Yes, he's a great character, but a lot of them were like, he's kind of annoying. None of them told him. So you have the next movie, then they found out afterwards, the next movie had him like one scene, and then the third sequel didn't have him at all. So it was one of those things where, had they told him before, Phantom Menace might have been just as good as Empire Strikes Back. You never know, but it kind of ruined it for me. So I said, this is great. So she now calls it a Jar Jar. I have this idea. Tell me, is this a Jar Jar?
And it's great to sample. And it's amazing when people, just because you have a dream doesn't mean, just because you had some success and now you have a dream, it's automatically going to work.
Yes.
Yeah. And you need people in your life who are going to tell you
the truth.
It's a Jar Jar. It's the truth. And I call them TUA people. And a TUA person, total unconditional accepting. So if I walk in a room and Brandon's standing over the body with a smoking gun, I say, who shot that person? That's TUA. And if you have like 5 people in your life who can be like that, it's a game changer. And one of the things, in terms of getting more sleep, I read this study that said, on average, only 4 people will cry at your funeral. And my philosophy is this: if you're not going to cry at my funeral, you don't earn the right to an opinion about my life.
Really?
That's great.
Yeah. So you need those people who are going to tell you it's a Jar Jar.
But then they say about crying at your funeral that if you're crying, it meant that you weren't able to communicate and you weren't able to experience all the things, and that's what's held in. But if we had this fulfilling relationship where I always told you how I felt and we had this great communication, then I felt good about what we experienced. And I'm not, but usually you're crying because you kind of feel bad because of something you didn't say, something you didn't do, which is what most people before they die are feeling. I wish I would have tried that. Wish I would have been a little bit nicer or communicated better with the people I love. So you wonder, like, I've really been trying to make sure that when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not thinking about, oh man, I should have done this, should have done that, or I should have been nicer, I should have loved that person more, told that person I loved them, or worked it out, or settled my differences. And I think you can avoid a lot of crying at funerals if you can really think about those two things ahead of time.
I'm a funeral crier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just am.
You got to listen to my pod. Ben, who was the pod we did with BJ? Remember? Yeah. I mean, you got to listen to my pod with BJ Miller. You know BJ Miller?
I do, yeah.
I got to tell you, man, I don't know if I said 2 words in his pod because he said that I talk too much. I'm like, I needed you for another hour. And that whole pod, I tell people all the time, like, if you listen to any of the 200 pods we've done, maybe that's my favorite one because he talks all about dying, preparing to die, the importance of dying, and how we should be much more positive about dying. Yeah. And here's a guy who lost one of his arms, 2 legs, and his outlook and perspective was amazing. Great looking guy, just a great, you can just feel the vibe, you know? And one of my favorite lines he said was like, thank God we're all going to die or nothing will get done. Yeah. Because it does create that urgency of, but it was just not to get caught up in dying on this, right? But we were all over the place. But, you know, at the end, I thought that was, I'm going to get back to you about the crying thing. I have cried at a lot of funerals, though. But
there is a way that nobody actually cries at Susan Sly's funeral. Because she's so healthy, she's going to outlive everybody, including her kids and her grandkids.
Well, that's what you want on your tombstone. Nah, he was this, he was that. He lived longer than any other man known. You know, that would be cool. And I'm aiming for that goal.
The best book title I've seen all year is, I was going through an airport and there was a book that said, If God Wrote Your Bucket List. And it was about 6 months ago, and I've been thinking about that because how often do we play small, or we're maybe doing things but the motives aren't right, and then we end up sabotaging ourselves. And I see that with people, whether it's health, they sabotage their health, their relationships, all of it. And so I've been thinking deeply about if God wrote my bucket list, right? Like, what would that look like? How would it be different? Would it be different?
Is that a better book title than You Gotta Have Balls?
No. But well, you gotta have balls is a way of life. But you know, I'm thinking though about, you know, the whole thing about the bucket list is I'm more concerned about the list that's stopping me from doing the things I want to do, as opposed to I have the list of all the things I want to do. Always, I'm constantly updating it, but I'm more concerned now with the list of like what's holding me back, which is a list that people should be very concerned with. Like, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you? You know, up in the air. We're just writing a blog about this, where he sits with the guy and he's letting him go. Yeah. And he says, I see you in a French coloring area, but when is it that you decided to give up on your dreams and just take the money? Mm-hmm. It was really a moving part of that movie. And I ask a lot of people that question all the time. I was like, when did you give up on your dreams and just basically slide over and all it was the money grab?
And it's a
bad hole to fall into.
It's an interesting concept to really think about, because as we're building Radius, the AI company, one of the things that I was very passionate about when I came on was setting up an investor board, because it's very easy. Ring, as an example, an AI company was sold to Amazon for $1 billion.
I love that. That was the guy that was on Shark Tank.
Yeah. And it's very easy to sit there and go, oh, we got offered $750 million, or we got, how do we know? And then taking some different opinions into consideration, because if anyone who's building a company, or you're a solopreneur, or you've got a side hustle or whatever, at some point your heart and your selflessness, it's got to stay there, because if not, you're now in it for the wrong reasons, and at some point someone's going to get hurt and you're going to leave a lot of collateral damage. And so I think about all these things when I take on new projects, when I agree to speak, when I do anything.
What do you think about with the Radius? What drew you to that? Because it's, you know, we were just talking before, it's very out of the box, almost kind of like it's almost like a sci-fi movie when you talk about, you know, facial recognition. I go into a gas station, have a camera at me, and then all of a sudden things that I would maybe like if I'm wearing a New York Giants or a Bears shirt, all of a sudden it's going to say, hey, you know, we got some great deals on beer. You know, and then maybe I want to drink some beer before I go to the game.
That's exactly right. And that's
crazy.
What we feel like our computer vision, artificial intelligence will do. It's like having the best salesperson right there that knows you and knows the situation. Is it NFL Sunday? What are they going to want to buy? Or is it 7 o'clock in the morning? Somebody might want coffee versus being offered Miller Lite if I'm with you.
Is this the alternate? Because nobody's going into a store, so it's getting harder and harder to find out what it is you want. This is going to give you some direct contact.
We mainly want to increase foot traffic. And how do you do that? You give somebody a tempting offer that's personalized, more custom to them. Again, if you are out there, if I'm with my 2 daughters and you're a salesperson in there and there's a new a new Disney movie that came out with some princesses, you might say, hey, you want to come in? I got some new princess whatever items they are. Versus if I'm out with Susan, you might offer us, she loves Perrier, she loves the health food, and if you know I'm doing low carb right now, you might say we got some keto bars in here. So completely different to this situation.
Now, where's the information on this company? Where if I want to find out more about it?
www.radiusai.com.
Wow.
And can I share just a quick story?
Of course.
Because I want to, I love every time we get together, our conversations. Last time I had you on my podcast, the conversations, they go. But I want to share a story about my dad, because this is going to tie this all in. So my dad's name is Joe, and my dad helped design the pacemaker and the microprocessor. And the planes in Top Gun, those engines, he helped work on those. And when I was a little kid in the 80s, I finally got to go live with my dad. I was raised by a single dad. And I said to my dad, I want some video games. And he's like, go make them yourself. So
Wow.
if anyone watching, I want to bring it home, because Brandon is inspiring me to live more on purpose. And why did I say yes to Radius? There was a part of me, thanks to my dad, that was very techie, that loves creating, that loves figuring out how to serve and add value to people using technology, and it was missing. And I have to tell you, it'd be like maybe you living your life without any sports whatsoever, and it felt very vacant. And so I was when Jeff and I started talking, and he invited me to participate with the company, it was like coming home, and I suddenly felt like there wasn't anything missing. So I love developers, and I love tech, and I love what we can do. And the other thing with Radius that I'm very passionate about is we're going to be able to create safe schools and safe synagogues and safe churches, because we're not collecting anyone's personal information, but if someone is coming in with a gun, we're going to be able to notify first responders before anyone can physically put eyes on that person. And there's so many things we're going to do. And I feel as I'm approaching 50 that I'm, they say, the first, few decades you're hustling. But for me, and especially as my kids are getting older, it's going into that legacy piece. And what legacy do I want to leave? I don't want to leave a Jar Jar. I want to leave a legacy. And if I can be part of a project like with Bill Bartman, when Bill was still alive, and his work was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Helping people with their accounts receivables or paying their bills, right?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And so think about the legacy and think about the legacy you're leaving. And so it's for me, it's coming back full circle. And I think my message to everyone viewing and listening is, life is too short. Life is too short, and you
gotta get to it.
Do what,
Don't wait for the new year. Start now.
Yeah.
I did a blog this morning. It's like, start now. Stop doing what you're doing now and start doing what you need to be doing and want to be doing now. Don't come up with next week, tomorrow. Start now. The best time to do anything is now. If I gave you the magic power to insert one thing in every American today, non-political driven.
Oh.
So I don't want to go into that, because I always tell people just go vote. But what would you tell people? What's the one thing you think that can make us better as a whole? What's the one thing you want to insert to every person you could?
Compassion. When I worked in men's maximum security prison, as I mentioned, I the worst rapists, serial killers, serial sex offenders, the list goes on. And then I went to work in psychological testing. So I'd sit in a room like this size, and I'd administer the Rorschach test, the DSM. We were on the 3R back in those days. And as you get to know people's stories, and I remember watching an interview with Natalie Cole, and she once said, you only see the glory, you don't know the story. And whether someone's an offender or a successful business person or a pro athlete, there's a story behind what drives people to do things. And I think if I could insert anything into not just Americans, but people all over the world, it would be compassion. Yeah.
You only see the glory, you don't know the story, which is so true. Most people will ask you, how do you get that? Instead of, really what they really want to know is, explain to me the processes. And I think it's a big part of parenting. Stop creating a mini me or what you think. But really, you best thing you could show your kids is the trials and tribulations, honestly, that you went through in order to get to where you got.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the fact you have a car, your kid is smart enough to see you have a Mercedes.
Yes.
But they don't know the trials and tribulations, what it takes to get that. And then they can make that decision on their own, whether they want to go through that to get that, or I mean, I don't care about that car. And they have their own priorities, what they want to get. But they understand the ups and downs of getting it. I would take my daughter and kid as many times as I could to work. Mm-hmm. I'd say, Nicole, I just want to tell you, this I've been preparing for this negotiation. I don't know how it's going to work out. You may not be coming home with me. They may want you as part of this deal. I don't know. Like this is a eat or be eaten situation. Yeah. But I feel like this could be a game changer for Steiner. And I'm trying to do this for the company, and this could be really good for us. Yeah. Hopefully this will work out, but I'm going to bring you in firsthand. She's like, Dad, I'm 9. I said, yeah, well, you see these things. It's not all rosy. You see all the nice, but, these are tough situations. And frankly, today I may lose. I mean, I'm not planning on it, but, I just wanted her to see the battle and negotiate. I told her I was trying to negotiate and win. And at the end, she saw, I won a couple points, lost a couple points. So I realized our dad wasn't Superman. Which she continually reminds me of, that I'm not Superman, but that's okay. I'm not perfect, and she needs to know that. But it makes her strong. I think it's made her a really strong businesswoman. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Seeing the honesty of it all, which I think sometimes parents kind of want to neglect to tell their kids, and that's a big part of the new book. Mm-hmm. Is the honesty of it is really like phenomenal if you can get to it. It's actually the most brilliant part of it all.
I've watched you the last 7 years going on this journey, and starting almost like every cell, every fiber of your body, just building this next iteration of you. So let me turn the tables on you.
Of course, that's what we're here to do.
So is there anything that you wanted to achieve in 2018 that you didn't, and you're committed to achieving in 2019?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, 2018. I'm first of all, I'm always a little tougher than myself than I probably should be. But I definitely wanted to be lighter than I am. I'm definitely in as good a shape as I was a year ago.
I can help you with that offline.
But I'm pissed. I'm pissed at myself. I'm angry that I could not figure out, with all the working out and everything else, I couldn't get myself 6 or 7 pounds lighter, which would enable me to even play better on the basketball court, feel better, and everything else. So I'm upset with myself. I don't think it's a secret. Here at Steiner, we didn't probably hit our goals and some of the things we were trying to achieve, and some of the things I wanted to grow and hire. So that's been a bit of a bummer. And I didn't travel to a couple of the places that I thought I was going to travel to just from a fun standpoint. This has been probably not one of my best years, but I'm optimistic about coming up with a better strategy and a better plan to make sure that happens. Because maybe I don't blame a lot of other people for all those things I just said. Yeah. I look at the mirror and I go, Brian, you could do better. You're better than that. I think it's important for me to, and that's what I've kind of done. That's why the end of years are very tough for me. It always has been, because I'm looking at the truth, I'm staring it down, and I'm begging to get to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And instead of a lot of people, and I'm not against some of the positive things that have happened. So it's not what you asked, but. So I'm real positive about some of the good things that have happened, but I'm begging for the truth, and I'm also resolving where the differences were. Mm-hmm. Brandon, you're better than that. Brandon, you could have been smarter about that. I lost a couple big negotiations with a couple players. I've kind of gone through those scenarios instead of ignoring them. I don't want to dwell on them, but I've gone through it, and I've forgiven myself about that. And now next time I'll know better. The weight, I'm coming up with a much better plan. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today, yesterday. I've already started putting that plan in, because for me not to be 7 pounds lighter, I'm running a $40 million business. I can't lose 7 pounds. It's pathetic.
We'll have you 7 pounds lighter, definitely.
I'm mad at myself. Yeah. So but listen, it sounds like 7 pounds, but it's hard to lose 7 pounds and maintain the health. I'm exercising a lot, so that's always been tricky. I've increased my exercise double. I've worked out probably 350 days out of 365.
Here's the secret. Remember this quote. You got a lot from her. Abs are made in the kitchen. Doesn't matter how much exercise you do. It's diet.
And I've refused to compromise my diet on certain things. Yes. And I'm so mad at myself, because I'm like, Brandon, you're so much better than that. And then yet, if you go to my house, I've got more junk than a grocery store. I mean, like I'm like, honey, this is me and you. And there's like 8 boxes of cookies, 19 boxes of crackers, every kind of peanut, nut.
Yes.
I said to the lady that works in our house, like, I think like 6 pints of ice cream. There's only 2 of us, and Mara doesn't even eat it. So who's this for?
If I have those
and I'm gonna eat
chocolate
that.
balls out,
Yeah.
Christmas time, everybody has those. Like, they were at your house. I
didn't eat any of them.
I gotta work
I
on the
deal in
internal
cause
stuff.
and
Yeah.
effect, right?
Those are my weakness.
And by all means, I'm not perfect. And here's the thing: sometimes change isn't happening not for lack of desire or trying. I say to my staff all the time, they'll say, we need a decision. And I'll say, I don't have enough information to make a decision. So often with health, we have to look at hormones. We have to look at not just in the old school blood. Okay, let's do your thyroid. Let's do your cholesterol. That means nothing really. Now it's the new age of hormones, and it's genetic testing and all sorts of things. And you can get, like, right here in Midtown, there's an amazing doctor I can recommend you to. They'll do like the most amazing genetic tests. I found out when I have calcium, most women, they need calcium, helps them sleep. It actually slows down my brain. And so I found that out through genetic testing. I'm also the person, I should be wearing a medical alert bracelet because the painkillers and things they would give you in the hospital in an emergency situation don't work on me. So through genetic testing and through, blood work, that's how, I do fasted cardio. I ran 8 miles on Sunday with nothing in my system. I do all those things and I train. But if something's not moving, I always go back to, what is the blood work saying in the very high level testing? What do we need to modify? And I'll go back to stress, since we started with stress. If I had Brandon's blood work and I'm like, oh, here's where these hormones are, it might not be, you need to go hammer more. It's, oh, you're going to do yoga for 30 days to drop the 7 pounds. So, and I don't know. And that's why no one, and I was a trainer and nutritionist for 15 years, but there's, no one can really say to you, you just need to train like this. You just need to eat like this. At a certain age, yes. Once you go 50 and beyond, you have to have the information. So
50 is just such a game changer, and most people are just not prepared for it, for the adjustments.
Most people aren't prepared for much, let alone anyway.
Well, they just think if they go to work every day, work hard, make a lot of money, everything's going to work out. It's just not true. It's not going to happen. It's just not true. It's a delusional. There's a lot of work you got to put into a lot of other things other than work.
Yeah.
Right? That's true. All right, we're out of time. Closing remarks and where to go. How far along are you on this new concept? And yeah, I know you're doing some fundraising and raising a capital, but are we close?
So we just finished our pre-Series A. We're just in the process. We have 2 people who both want to close it out, so we have to kind of go back to them and go, what are you guys doing? So we're almost finished that, and then we're going to our Series A. And I love what we're doing because I love what we get to do, if that makes sense. And the future is here. AI is here. I call it white hat, and our tagline for our company is Humanizing Ai. And so if we can make a stadium safer, if, I want you to imagine, your 16-year-old goes with their friends and they're going to a game, and, the whole time you're like, are they okay? If we can make a stadium safer, or ladies, if we can even make sure that you're not in a massive lineup for a restroom, or we can create customized experiences without holding your data, then we're going to leave an amazing legacy with this company. I'm excited.
That's big. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Jeff, you want to get a hold of you? Where am I going to find you?
So www.radiusai.com is the best way, and then I'm going to give you my business card. You'll have my personal cell phone number.
That's awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining.